Musical and artistic creativity have been a part of the Sinai experience since the very beginning. Come with us now as we meet some of the people who bring new and interesting facets to that creativity. This is Musical Mondays Plus. Ellen Dubin is one of the hardest working actresses in Hollywood and Toronto. Someone whose work you may have enjoyed on Murdoch Mysteries or The Listener, or in film, or in video games, where she has a tremendous following. She is currently starring in the animated series Star Wars Resistance. And I'm very pleased to be able to tell you that she will be the face and voice of Temple Sinai this coming high holiday season. So let's meet Ellen close and personal, and our interviewer is David Eisner. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is part two with the talented actress galore. We love her, Ellen Dubin. She's done movies, TV shows, voice work on games, voice work for Disney. We're going to talk about her life in a more personal way in part two of this series. I don't know why I'm looking over there. I should be looking there. But we're thrilled to have her. This is the theme song to Napoleon. Ladies and gentlemen, Ellen Dubin.
Hi, David.
Thank you so much for part two. When we left, we were just finishing up with sci-fi and midway, and the auditions you did to get these wonderful roles as a tribute to your dad. I'd love to talk about some other movies you did before we get into some of the personal stuff, but you did a movie that I love. Anytime I see it on TV, I gotta watch it. Such a unique tone and a unique acting style, Napoleon Dynamite. Tell me how that came about.
Well, this is a lesson, everybody, and what you do in your past can come back to haunt you or give you some propelling, to the next phase of your career. When I was doing Lex, I got interviewed by a guy named Chris Wyatt, who was writing for a big sci-fi magazine called Cinescape. Flash forward, he's producing a movie called Napoleon Dynamite. He phones me, he says, do you want to be in my movie? I said, what is it? He said, it's called Napoleon Dynamite. I said, send me a script. So I'm looking at this, I'm going, what the heck is this? A llama and this crazy language. And I said, where's the shooting? He goes, Preston, Idaho. I went, well, I'm not at the point where people are offering me stuff. I've never been to Salt Lake City and then fly in back, go into to Preston, Idaho. Okay, I'll do it. What the heck? My agent at the time in LA said, this is ridiculous. You shouldn't do this. I said, it's 5 days out of my life. Who cares? So I go. And I stay in a motel, I'll never forget it. It said hotel. The M was missing.
Right. Well, this was not a big budget movie.
Oh,
right.
We ate cheese, Swiss, and apples for the craft service.
Oh my God.
Right. It was the lowest budget thing I've ever been on, and I never had a better time. And it was amazing and a very weird style of comedy. As a comedy director, usually it's faster, generally. This guy wanted it like we were, he said, no, Ellen, slow down. You have to talk really slowly. I was like, okay. Well, he was onto something because the pace of the movie is very slow, but it's hilarious and quirky and unique. And obviously, so because of Lex, I got Napoleon Dynamite.
Wow.
You never know.
Was it the actual days of shooting with John Heater? And was it fun?
The first time I opened the door as my character Eileen, and I hadn't seen him. If you know me really well, I was biting my tongue. There's a little bit of
okay. Next time we
smirk. And it's he's hilarious, always in character, and it was a great experience. And the fact that I like underdogs that do well. I mean, this didn't have A-list movie stars. Everybody was an unknown pretty much. And it was done in the hometown of the writer and his wife and director. They were avid Mormons.
Oh, interesting.
Everybody except a couple of us. I might have been the first Jewish person they'd ever seen,
Wow.
but they liked me. Yeah.
There you go.
There you
Did
go.
did they do as a short film first and then did the feature, or do you know?
Apparently they did.
Yeah,
I wasn't in that, but yeah, yeah, good research. I didn't know that till later on, several years later, and then they made an animated series out of it,
right.
and I was about to do it, and then it got canceled. They
Oh,
were going to bring in Eileen. So,
right.
but talk about fans. What we talked about in the first part. Almost every day, I get an email from a fan about
Right.
Napoleon Dynamite,
Wow.
quoting every line.
Fascinating. It's a comedy, but it hits us and resonates in this bizarre way of this underdog
Yes,
and the bizarre world that the director created, but yet it resonates so profoundly. It's just fun.
yeah. Hey, listen, he's of the belief, and I believe that we all have an inner nerd.
Right. And the inner nerd gets to win at the end
That's right,
with a
which is
great twist.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, you've done also some animation as well as and you do you mentioned you're teaching in the game world because
Yeah.
there's different avenues of revenue for an actor and you've been amazingly successful in several of them. Different cartoons.
Hmm. I um I really like cartoons. I like animation. There's a wide variety from absolutely over the top to again very straightforward, and I was very lucky to break into a world that a lot of people dream of, the Star Wars world.
Right, with
And
Lego. Yeah.
I think every actor, whether it's on camera or animation or video game, to have that on your resume it's the creme de la creme. It really is. I mean, I have when I did the animated cartoon of Star Wars, some of the original people, like the original Chewbacca, the original R2D2, those guys were actually in that. I never met them. Well, I
Right.
did meet Chewbacca, may he rest in peace, Peter Mayhew, at a convention, but that's a whole other story. Um, uh, you record on your own. So when I got it, I cried because it's iconic. That's the word.
100%.
It's
Yeah.
iconic, and then when I got Star Wars Resistance, I'm playing the villain Captain Phasma. Gwendolyn Christie from Game of Thrones, a 6'3" blonde woman, Brienne of Tarth. I'm doing her. So the first year she did it, but the second year she was so famous that she probably couldn't be bothered doing it anymore. So I got to do her British cold villain.
Amazing.
So I was happy to have that on my resume. And then I did a show called Adam Ruins Everything, which is very popular with the colleges, where Adam Conover, a fantastic stand up comic, comes into a set and he goes, "No, that's not true." And then he disputes it, and we play characters. And I was the first animated version he did. And it was a spoof of the Magic Bus. Did you ever see the Magic Bus with Lily Tomlin?
Yes.
And she's a school teacher. Well, I
Yeah.
played kind of her character, and I got nominated for a best animation performance in the U.S. for that. So that
Wow.
I was very grateful to do that, and that was again 3 days after my dad passed away,
Wow.
and my mom said, "Go and do it." So my parents are always,
Intertwined in everyone's world.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That is amazing. And they don't leave in that sense. They're in our head and
100%,
and they inspire us and help us throughout our life beyond
exactly.
theirs. Has faith played any role in your life? I mean, you've had some traumatic moments, and we'll get to it in a minute with your husband passing, your father. Um, how has faith continued on in your life?
I went through different phases. I think I've been reading a little bit about grief, but I think I need to experience without reading it for me. But I found that I question things first. Why?
Very Jewish. Yeah.
Why? Especially, I mean, my dad was 94, and obviously you want your parents to live to 1,004. But my husband was young
Mhm.
and passed in 4 months with healthy, and all of a sudden, passed away of a glioblastoma, which is brain cancer, a fatal brain cancer. And I started to find that I needed something to hang on to. I mean, obviously, my mother's love and my brother's love was very important, but I needed to have something greater,
Mhm.
something greater out there to believe in, to kind of get through and still get through. Because to be honest with you, it's all still a shock. I mean, Jay is 2 years and a bit right now, but
Wow.
it's really fresh. So I do cling to God during these times, but I also go through these roller coasters. I think like most human beings.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes. But that keeps it alive as well, I think.
100%. Yeah, yeah.
That's not by rote. My dad passed away at 81 as a Holocaust survivor from glioblastoma as well.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a horrible disease and it goes quick.
was it
But
for a couple of months too? Like four
it
months?
was 4 or 5 months. Yeah.
Yeah, same with
Um,
Jay. I'm so sorry that you had to go through it.
yeah.
It's horrible.
I think he led a longer life than your husband, who was such a, um,
Still, it's such a shock, and they don't know a
yeah,
lot about it. But it's yeah,
who knows with research as time goes on, but it is what it is. And Jay was such a successful man professionally. TV, the CEO, started
city
Much Music,
and much
City
music.
TV.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he comes by it honestly. His mother, Phyllis Switzer, who I wish I got to know. She died in her 50s of breast cancer, so I didn't get to know her very well. But she made it to our wedding. She was the first female broadcaster in North
Oh,
America.
that's unbelievable.
She
Wow.
was unbelievable, and at the time, men were getting the credits
Mhm.
to start off City TV. So Jay worked on switchboard and
Oh,
did all
that's
kinds of pulling cables and paying his dues. And then he was so immersed in that world and such a brilliant, brilliant man that he ended up being president of City and then Chum Television and running a beautiful empire. But he always answered his own phones and
oh,
always. And to this day, I still get emails about how Jay mentored someone. Like, he didn't come home and
mm,
go, Ellen, today I mentored this woman or this,
that's
he was
true
very
altruism.
100%
Yeah,
kept it
never.
quiet. And I would say probably the most selfless, humble human being I have ever met
Mm,
in my life. And it's been in this surreal time of COVID to not have him here
mhm.
has been agonizing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's funny, his lesson of how he succeeded. I tell people, there was a secretary on a show, I think then, who became associate producer. You get into where you want to go, and they tend to hire within, and you show your abilities. It's amazing how you can work up, and if you have the
Yeah,
goods,
well, you have to show it. Yeah, you have to
yeah,
have the
you have
goods,
to have the
definitely.
goods. And but what a story!
Oh,
Pulling the wires to the
yeah. Anyway, he got an MBA at Western and
CEO and starting all these
installing
new ventures.
cables, all kinds of things.
Wow,
Yeah.
um, that's incredible. And your dad passed 4 years ago.
Dad passed 2017 and
Right.
a half. Yeah.
And how's your mom? I know it's difficult. She's
It's
getting up there too.
very
Yeah.
difficult about my dad, but Jay was such a good son-in-law. He was basically her son. I mean, what son wants to take the parents on a holiday, takes my mom to the hairdresser? I mean, he was a
Wow.
very special man. So she's grieving my dad. We're both grieving my dad, but more her son. And a mother losing a son is very hard, very
A
hard.
lot of love.
So it's
Yeah.
it's been a fragile time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially in these unusual times, it really hits
Yes.
differently.
Yes.
But you're resilient, and as we talked about Linda Cash, a friend of yours, and there's a resiliency and
We've compared notes actually
oh,
about her
yeah,
husband Paul. Yeah, we had a talk and about her mother and
right,
Alzheimer's. So we've been in touch about various personal things, and it's really important to bond with people who have experienced the same thing.
right.
And she's been very generous, and we've shared several stories together. So privately, yeah, I think if somebody's going through something right now, and I want to say this, and I'm glad that this, you never know where interviews are going to go, but it's really important. And I know, say, reach out. It sounds like BS, but honestly, the people that we want to be there. And I actually want to hear from people too.
Mhm,
It's really important more than ever right now because who's ever experienced a plague?
mhm.
Like
Yeah, no,
it's
100%.
just been in 2020 or horrific racism right now, what we're all dealing with in the world. So
Mhm.
I think we need to talk.
Yes, it only connects us in different ways.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, and going back to showbiz,
Yeah.
I'm so jealous of you
Oh,
in the sense of Disney World and
oh,
Disneyland. It is such an amazing feat to be able to say that you're the voice in Disneyland, or currently the voice, as you
yeah.
mentioned, has to be said, but also the 60th anniversary in Disney World. I remember going with my kids, thinking, "Gee, I would love to go to the rides," and you hear the voices, and you go, "Well, that would be something," because it just happened. You
It
know,
is, David. It is like Star Wars. It was.
yeah.
It. I cried when my agent phoned me. He said, "Okay." First of all, I did the World of Color, which is in the California Adventureland. It's like, welcome to the world of color. And they have the Ferris wheel and Mickey Mouse on the Ferris wheel. It's like so cool. I'm talking to, and then I had to audition, even though the same creator, Steve Davidson's his name, created 60th anniversary. And when I booked that and just heard it in the studio with a 100-piece orchestra and a children's choir,
Oh my God.
I actually started to cry during the session. And the guy said to me, this is exactly the effect I want to have on people. He said, take 10 minutes,
Oh, wow.
come back. Because I said, oh, I'm so sorry. He said, no, it's working. This works. And he said, that's why we hired you, because you have so much heart. We hear that in your voice and your passion. Um, and when I heard it in the park, I went the last day. I literally burst out crying. I went with a friend and he was blown away. It's honestly one of the most satisfying jobs. And you remember, David, that people hear this thousands of times.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then I don't know if you know this, became the voice model for all the theme parks in Shanghai, Paris, and Tokyo.
Wow.
So they would try and hire somebody like me there, or else they would put part of my English in and then do their own thing in their own
Right.
language. So it was the voice model for Disney was really cool. It's one of the most gratifying jobs I've ever had. It's very moving.
Yes. And if I would describe your voice as a voice model, that they want to do, there's a warmth, there's a deep s- sort of honey tone, sort of I'll do a dance as I talk. Um, there's just a lovely quality and a unique tone to it too.
Thank you.
And there's a heart to it
Yeah.
that comes
I mean,
through it all.
it's not the voice, quite the voice I have now, but there's a lyricism to it and it's a little bit more fantasy like. But the casting director told me after they couldn't get uh, Allison Janney and Linda Hunt,
Oh,
that's,
wow.
honestly, they said, we're going to, he said to me, nice Jewish boy, Brian Nevsky from Canada, actually,
Oh,
casts all the Disney park voices. He said, you were my third choice. I said, okay, who are the first two? And I said, that's okay. Linda Hunt, great. Allison Janney, great. He said, but you know what? You did good. And it's all about heart and soul. Seriously, it really is. Because
right.
people they're in the park and they have to hear it. And it sort of they continue with their stuff, but they still have to feel moved.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you.
like any storytelling. And I love that.
Exactly.
Yeah. And what's next for you? What would you
Well,
like? So wish list of what you'd like to do. Um,
well, before COVID, I did an incredible new sci-fi pilot by
oh,
a guy who lives in Stratford, Ontario, who
huh,
has no connections, nothing, and it's called The Time Is Right. And we shot a pilot, and I really, really want him to get his money. I want to help him get his money. It's a time travel piece about what happens if you could stop time, but not people like wish we could Adolf Hitler or Mussolini. It's about in your own life, and it takes place in the scenario of a game show. So you go on the game show and you can win prizes if you go back in time.
right.
And I have an agenda. I'm the showrunner, the producer of the show.
You
But
are. Oh,
I,
oh, of the fictional
within
show.
the show, it's like a
Right.
show within a show. But I have an agenda that I want to go back in time for a reason. So it's an amazing show. The pilot is really good. So I mean, who knows what's going to happen with live work right now.
Right.
So that's on the back burner. I'm doing voice work on some more video games.
Wow. We were
And
talking about the cloth behind you because all Toronto actors, or I guess the world actors,
Yes.
are advised to put in their own studios.
Right.
Means blankets that surround you and high-end microphones.
Exactly. I'm baffling the sound and doing the best I can during COVID when stores were not open at all.
Right.
And so I surround myself by these blankets. So, and I'm doing a couple of shows out of Toronto, and a lovely animation show for kids for PBS called Eleanor Wonders Why.
Beautiful.
And that comes out in a couple months. And another show I can't tell you, but it's an anime show based on a huge popular franchise playing an animal that's a villain. So one's a very good, warm character, and one's an animal that's a villain. And so on that front, I've got some things coming up, and spending
Great.
time with my family
Right.
is
Time.
number one. Number
Right.
one.
Through Zoom, I guess, or now are you allowed to visit your
I
mom?
can go see my mom because I'm doing nothing. Honestly,
Good.
I mean, I go here and I go there. Everything I get is delivered. And because I'm looking after her, I have special permission to go to her. But I'm purposely living the life of an 84-year-old and not going anywhere. Not that I really even want to right now, you know.
No, no,
Yeah.
as a lot of
So
people are a little
just
reticent.
sort of staying safe and insulated right now because of her.
Right.
So that, you know, and teaching and doing the teaching on Zoom and taking some classes.
That's amazing. And if I can inspire you to do, maybe when COVID is over, but more teaching, because you have brilliant stories about auditioning, about acting. As you say, we can give to other people that they can then use, and about the business of acting. Because I think as we started this whole conversation, it was the discipline of the ballet
Yeah,
and the research of anthropology and that combination and the inspiration. There's a psychological journey too as an actor, as you say, you get the nose. And what do you do with that?
for sure. Exactly. You know what? Your whole life ties into no matter what you do. I firmly believe that. You may not know it consciously,
Mm,
but I really, no matter what you do,
right. Oh,
it
that's very true.
informs your decisions, it informs your career, it informs you as a person. And I really, I'm really grateful to have parents that it's all, and my husband said this too. What can I do for you?
Mm.
What, how can I help? That's always my first gut instinct. How can I help?
You do that in many ways. And another way you do it is with the Make-A-Wish Foundation, which you're a main spokesperson for. If you could
Yeah.
share some information about that. When did you start being involved in that organization?
They had found me. They were looking for, they had somebody who had hosted one of their events that became very lewd and rude. It's
Mm,
not exact, you know, you have to know your audience. Here's know your audience. And so I hosted a huge event with them with, at the time, I think it was from Entertainment Time, Ben Mulrooney.
oh, wow.
And because they had fired this particular stand-up comedian who was too racy.
Mm,
And, you know, again, you have to know who you're talking to.
right.
And I hosted a big event and they were very impressed. So I ended up being spokesperson for them. And I think what clinched it for them and for me was there was a little girl standing backstage that they were going to introduce later on in the show. And I was looking at her in the wings and I thought to myself, okay, here's where my improv's coming in.
Mm,
I said, let's bring on, I'm not going to say her name because she's not around anymore.
mm,
Let's bring on, and let's have her help me do the auction, the silent auction.
mm.
And the stage manager, I saw her in the background going, what? This isn't in the notes. And then, but when you see the face of a little girl who's going to passive cancer very soon,
Mhm.
and she was so, we had like, it was like a comedy routine. At one point I was crying. She goes, why are you crying? We're
Mm.
living. Isn't that,
Right. Let's be in the moment.
why are you
Right.
crying? We're living. I thought, I have nothing to complain about.
Yeah.
No, and so, you know, I think she raised a lot of money for Make-A-Wish. I keep giving her the credit. And, you know, flying by the seat of our pants, but putting a face to Make-A-Wish, it's very, very important. And the kids, Disneyland, at the time, I wasn't, now I just
Oh,
thought of that. I'm not, I wasn't doing the voices then, but
oh,
I
that's
just
so
thought of
funny.
that because that's generally the number one wish,
Mhm.
going to
That's so
Disneyland.
interesting.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder whether there's angels above that manipulate to some degree if we can follow the signs of our life.
I think
the
so.
Disney World, and then there you are now, a part of it in many
Yeah.
different ways.
Yeah.
And
Very
look,
rewarding.
absolutely. And you continue to do that?
I haven't because I actually want to talk to them after COVID because they've changed hands, changed management. So I need to go back.
Oh, I see.
And I actually want to work with veterans
Oh, interesting.
after COVID because of Dad.
Right. It's
Yeah.
interesting where our life goes. I have to tell you, excuse me, this is the skip ad before I get to the music. Um, as I do my homemade exit with you, but you've been such a pleasure to talk with. As I said before, your resilience, your you have the balance of a fiddler on the roof. Your resilience, your humor, your grace, and your talent as a performer, but as a person, as you say, has really made it special for everyone who knows you. And I can't thank you enough for partaking and sharing your life with us. It's been a joy.
Thank you so much for your wonderful questions, David. I felt like I was invited into your living room and you made me very comfortable. Thank you.
Our pleasure. Thank you. Be well, and we can't wait to see you for the high holidays.
You too. Take care, everybody. Be safe. Thank you. Bye.